How's it going, everybody? Grace and peace to you. I want to drop in and share something out of John chapter 9. I'm going to read the whole chapter. It's 41 verses, so bear with me. And then I just want to share something. I'm actually developing a message out of this chapter, but I just want to read some things. So it says, as he passed by, he saw a man blind from birth. And his disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Jesus answered, it was not that this man sinned or his parents, but that the works of God might be displayed in him. We must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. Having said these things, he spat on the ground and made mud with the saliva. Then he anointed the man's eyes with the mud and said to him, go, wash in the pool of Siloam, which means sent. So he went and washed and came back seeing. I'm not going to read all of this. I thought I was, but I'm not. I'm skipping down, and I'll just kind of talk through some of this. But down in 35 to the end, it says, Jesus heard that they had cast him out, speaking of out of the synagogue. And having found him, he said, do you believe in the Son of Man? He answered, and who is he, sir, that I may believe in him? Jesus said to him, you have seen him, and it is he who is speaking to you. He said, Lord, I believe, and he worshiped him. Jesus said, for judgment I came into the world, that those who do not see may see, and those who see may become blind. Some of the Pharisees near him heard these things and said to him, are we also blind? Jesus said to them, if you were blind, you would have no guilt. But now that you say, we see, your guilt remains. Really quickly, I want to paint a picture for you of what it looks like when Jesus disrupts our lives. And we see it clearly in this entire chapter, how Jesus, going along his way, he had just had an encounter with some of the other Jews in chapter 8, and now he's going along and he sees somebody that was born blind and opened up his eyes, so to speak. Now, just think about that. Not only is this man's life interrupted, right? But this man, as he goes back into town or in the village or wherever he goes, around the people that know him, their lives are also going to be disrupted. And if we're willing, that's what he does for us. And when we go back to wherever he's sending us to, I want you to think about, you can use a sports analogy in this. For those of you that don't watch sports, might share something else, but I want you to think about football, where there's a team that is driving down the field constantly, can't be stopped, and the defensive coordinator in the next timeout decides to change up the defense and starts to send blitzes to disrupt the quarterback, his timing, and to disrupt the receivers and the offensive line and all of those different things, causing chaos that they cannot function the way that they had previously been functioning. and just driving down the field. You see the same thing in basketball, where the coach, when he calls a timeout, he said, we're going into the full court press now. And one of his best defenders is up on the other guy who had been causing all kind of trouble for your defense. And now you've inserted this other person in the game and inserted the full court press. And now the other team is struggling to get the ball up the court. Jesus does something similar to our lives, and it could be him allowing our circumstances to get to such a place to where we can now hear him. That's the key. Getting to a place that we can now hear him and he can speak directly to our hearts and our souls. Jesus speaks to this man and heals him. Man goes back into town. Verse 8 tells us that the neighbors and those who had seen him before was as a beggar. They were saying, is this not the man that used to sit and beg? And so here's the key thing. In their culture, everybody knows everybody. It's kind of like a small town, we would say here in the U.S., where everybody knows everybody and everybody knows everybody's business. When you would have a synagogue located in a certain area, everybody went there. We know that later on, talking to the parents of this man, that they were a part of this particular synagogue. And so it's not like you don't know him. They already know this is the man that used to sit and beg, and you know, everybody knows everybody. But that's what happens when Jesus interrupts our lives. We have to begin to wrestle with what we thought we knew. We got to begin to wrestle with it. Thoughts come up and we're like, nah, something ain't right. That can't be true. Everybody's asking him, who did this to you? And he tells them that it was Jesus. And they like, oh, come on, man, we got to take him to the Pharisees. Take him up here to the leaders. And they make it clear that in verse 14, now was the Sabbath day when Jesus had made the mud and opened the eyes. And so they're really finna crack down. Oh, man, who did this to you? Oh, the guy Jesus. Where's he at? I don't know. He did it and left. He didn't seek any fame for doing it. He just did it and left. So they say that he's a sinner. They say all of these different things about Jesus. And the guy is like doing apologetics in there unknowingly. He's like, well, if he's a sinner, how is God working through him like this and this and this? And they're having this back and forth thing with him and constantly asking him. He's like, look, I already told you don't want to hear it. Right. Then they called his parents in, and then the parents was like, well, ask him. We know that's our son, but ask him. He's old enough to speak for himself. They bring him in again, and he tells them the same thing. He says, do you want to be his disciple also? They're offended because something has disrupted their regular scheduled program. And a lot of times we're not ready for that. A lot of times we want to continue doing all of the things that we've been doing, that we think is working, that we think is right. We want to just continue in those things, and Jesus comes to disrupt those things. I remember for me, I had been in the streets and I had caught a case. I catch this case. Now I'm in jail trying to see if I'm going to be able to get bond to get out. And the Lord started to speak. And he told me to read his word. And as I got a Bible in the county and I'm reading, and now I'm wrestling. The disruption is on. And I'm reading for hours. And I know I can't go back to that lifestyle. And I know that I can't do some of the stuff that is telling me that the changes I need to make. And I'm telling God, I'm like, Lord, I can't do any of these things. Take it. Understand this. I hadn't surrendered my life to him, but I was wrestling with these things. I was counting the cost. I'm looking at the word of God and it's speaking to me, and Jesus has just disrupted my life and I don't know what to do now. Yeah, I got in my mind my case if the feds are going to put a hold on me, all of these different things. Yeah, I'm thinking about that, but I'm wrestling with this disruption that's right here before me. I'm wrestling with it and I can't put it down. But for some people, we don't want to hear it. And some of y'all that may hear this later on social media or on YouTube, some of y'all are going to be like, man, I don't want to hear that. I done heard that so many times. Did you? Did you really hear it? That's why Jesus said, man, I didn't come to bring peace, but a sword. Even inside your households, there's going to be division because of me. One person might actually hear, have their eyes open. And now everybody else in relation to you are going to have to shift and switch how they now interact with you. That's why some of y'all friends are attacking you and family members are attacking you, because now they know things are going to be different and they loved how they interacted with you before. I remember when I first got out, after a couple of years, people used to tell me, man, I miss the old J Bake, man. I miss the old J Bake. Keep missing him because he's not coming back. He's not coming back. There is a certain level of responsibility on our part for seeing. You need to understand that. And according to the text, there's a certain level of responsibility for claiming to see as well. I want to show you something. When he was talking to the guy, and Jesus says in verse 39, for judgment I came into this world, that those who do not see may see, and those who see may become blind. Some of the Pharisees near him heard these things, and they said to him, are we also blind? And Jesus said to them, if you were blind, you would have no guilt. But now that you say, you claiming, we see, your guilt remains. There's a lot of people out here proclaiming. They know, they understand, they're able to perceive the things of God around them. You need to understand that there's a certain level of responsibility for seeing, having the ability to perceive God's activity among you. And there's a certain level of responsibility again for those that proclaim so. Jesus is the disruptor, interrupting our lives. He's not going to stop. He's the light of the world. And he tells you at the beginning here, we must work the works of the one who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no man can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. Let me ask you something. Now that he's physically been removed and back at the right hand of the Father, did he not tell us to go out and be the light and salt? It's a dark place. But when the children of the light operate as they should, things happen. I pray that he disrupts your life. Grace, mercy, and peace be with you.